you've done this before.
I can't remember now. It's all hazy. This place is enormous. Actually, I'm always terrified on stage for the first minute or two.
All right, we'll get right into it then.
Yeah.
So Evernote, it's kind of momentous when someone who starts a company, and Evernote's been around since '07 or '08, takes off. Gives you a moment to reflect on what you built. So why don't we take a moment now to kind of recap what it is you built and how it's maybe changed the world a little bit, a little dent in the universe, the green dent in the universe.
Well, I think we made the color green cool for startups. I think when we were getting started, everything was blue. We actually did, when we were working on the logo, we looked around at what all the other startup colors were, and it was all blue. I think we were one of the first green startups. So I think we definitely made a difference in that people feel free to use the color green again.
Right.
I feel good about that. Maybe influence things a little bit as well. I think we kind of made productivity investable again. Mm-hmm. It was sort of a wasteland before. There wasn't really any new productivity stuff for a while, and I think we kind of helped create an industry, and I'm really happy to see all sorts of great progress in the area of making people more productive. That's partially due to the work we did and partially to what other companies that are coming after us are doing.
Right, and also it kind of introduced freemium to the masses as well, at all. People who hadn't really seen that business model before that?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of freemium stuff, but it was all kind of slimy. It was all freemium, more like free-to-play games, where you would try to squeeze money out of people as soon as possible. So you would use free to get people in, and then you would try to squeeze cash as soon as you can. And we did a very different thing. Since our retention rates are so good, we basically said, when I look at an Evernote user, I have the rest of your life to make money from you, as long as I can keep giving you a service that you keep coming back to. So we introduced this concept of a very long-term premium where the free product was the main product, and over time it was just meant to get people to start paying.
Okay. And so what are some of the greatest moments in what customers came to you, users came and said, this product changed my life?
That happened a lot. It was really gratifying, and starting pretty early. I remember being shocked. We launched in early 2008, and I remember just months afterwards already being shocked by hearing these stories of returning veterans with traumatic brain injury using it to literally remember things. Mm-hmm. All sorts of people using it for very, very useful, very kind of amazing use cases, and that's the great thing about how the tech world is wired right now. Once you make a product, as long as it's sort of sharply good or sharply bad, you immediately hear about all of the amazing things and all of the terrible things about it. There's basically no filter now between the developers and the community, and you will hear amazing stories within days of releasing something, mm-hmm. and death threats within days of releasing something.
Death threats?
Death threats.
Nice. Okay. So there was. Over time, Evernote seemed to have introduced a flurry of side products and enhancements and other apps, and there's a lot going on. Was there ever and also since you've left, so was there ever a time when you had to say, stop, we have to focus? Because for founders out there, they might want to understand the calculus of focus versus build and release and see what happens.
Yeah, that's a really tough question, and I don't think that's something that I've ever become really great at. People are constantly telling me to focus, all the time. Mm-hmm. And I think the way we thought about it at Evernote is early on, we were just a small startup. Our job was to try to do a bunch of different things and try to see which could be the most important, which could be the most impressive. And so we allowed ourselves to do a lot. As we actually get into the phase of the company where we're kind of medium-sized, mm-hmm. What's important now is impact. We want to have impact on the world, and you don't have impact by doing something flashy. You have impact by pushing consistently in one direction for many, many years. Mm-hmm. So we need to find those areas that we feel we can really push for the next 10 years. And that naturally means doing fewer things and doing it better. So that's definitely the mode that the company's in right now.
Right now. Mm-hmm.
And it's intellectually obviously the right thing to do. It's just psychologically always difficult for me because I like to think about a million different things. That's why I'm an investor now. I kind of have the freedom to think about a million different things and have that be, my main job.
Okay, so just talk through this transition and what you're going to be doing. and where Evernote's going next. You first, then them.
Well, so
Because you're still on the board. You're still chairman.
I'm the executive chairman of Evernote,
Yeah.
and I decided, I mean, I think the first time I talked to you years ago, I've been saying, I want to build Evernote as a 100-year startup.
Yeah.
And I do, and that always meant that we were fascinated by the idea of making a company that's bigger than the people in it, that lasts longer than everyone currently there, and that can still be innovative, that can still be a startup even 100 years later. And a big part of that is thinking about having the discipline to think through structure, team, transition. And so I realized probably a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago now, that as the company got bigger, I needed to bring on someone who was going to be a more professional CEO that actually enjoyed solving the kinds of puzzles that you need to solve at later stages of companies, that I was good at solving the earlier stage stuff. So worked with the board to do that. We brought in Chris O'Neill, amazing CEO from Google about 3 or 4 months ago, and I became a partner at General Catalyst. And what I'll be doing is starting new companies. I realized I wanted to start another 5 or 10 companies in my life, but I don't necessarily want to run any of them. I think I was CEO for the past 19 years of something, so I think I got running companies out of my system, but I very much want to start more stuff. So I will be working with great founders to, really from the ground up, just create new startups.
And is Evernote going to go public?
I hope so. I think my answer to that question has been consistent. I've said that we're 2 years away from being public for the past 7 years, so I'm sticking with that answer.
So, I mean, but just we'll take that as an opportunity to talk about the IPO market and late stage market, because Evernote raised a lot of money before a lot of companies raised a lot of money. So you paved the way a little bit. What's going on with this valuation, the bubble? It's the same old question everyone asks over time.
Yeah.
How do we unwind what's going on right now?
Well, I think I'm paraphrasing or misquoting Paul Samuelson, the economist, right, who said that economists have predicted 9 out of the past 5 recessions. I think the same thing is true of all the bubble theory. Like, everyone is always talking about there being a bubble.
Yeah.
And if you just keep saying that there's a bubble, then once in a while you're right, and there's a bubble. But that's not an interesting way of looking at it. I look at it in terms of time scales. So the reason that I'm an investor now, the reason that I'm a VC, is because I completely believe that if you look at our industry over the next 10 years, our industry, technology, will be worth far more in 10 years than it's worth now. There is no way that that's not true. Unless the world goes down like a Mad Max scenario, 10 years from now, there's going to be a lot more value, 2 to 3 times more value than there is now in technology. So if you're investing over a 10-year time horizon, I think it's obviously a great bet. There's going to be so many new valuable things created. If you're looking at a 6-month time horizon and you're saying, is the tech industry going to be worth more or less than it is now in 6 months?
Right.
I have no idea.
Right.
So we've worked very hard in Evernote to isolate ourselves from those kinds of short-term thinkings. The reason we raised money is so that we wouldn't have to have a 6-month period where we're like, oh, we need to raise money now, which may be a bad period. And the reason that I'm an investor now is I have the same kind of long-term thinking. So if you are worried about the short term, I don't know. Maybe there'll be a correction, maybe not. If you've got a few years, I am 100% confident that things are going to be worth much more.
I agree with you, man. If you add up all the value of the unicorns, the 160 so companies, it's only worth about Microsoft. And where would you rather put your money on 160 bets, Uber and Airbnb included, or Microsoft? I think you'd do a lot better on betting the field.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think all of this is actually pretty predictable. These technology goes in S-curves, right? So you have like some kind of new technology is introduced, and then it starts growing, and then it gets to an inflection point, and it grows like exponentially. And then as it matures, the rate of growth slows down, and so people become a little bit disappointed because they're expecting massive growth, and that disappointment leads to a leveling off, maybe a dip, and then some new thing comes along, and it kind of goes like that. Right. So you have these like series of S-curves.
But is it in the space I mean, you've done very different things. Your two prior companies were totally different than Evernote. But now that you know the productivity space and what people in the workplace need, and the way apps are starting to work together and talk to each other,
Right.
is that what you're going to be focusing on? Kind of consumer, what you've called the reverse Pinocchio effect,
The
where
reverse Pinocchio effect, yeah.
machines become human, or humans become machines?
Yeah, yeah. That's one of them. So I've got this thing that I don't think I've ever talked about before. Ever since I was a little kid, I get through difficult situations by pretending to be a robot. And it's actually really effective. Like if I'm having trouble waking up, like if I have to get up super early and I'm tired and jet lagged and I have to get up at 5 a.m. and be something, and I wake up and I can't get out of bed, I say in my head I am a robot, robots don't feel tired, and then I stand out of bed and walk to the bathroom. And it works great. Everyone should try
every
it.
time.
Yeah. Like robots brush their teeth.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the industry is actually going through a similar effect. So I've called it reverse Pinocchio, because Pinocchio always wanted to be a real boy. Mm-hmm. Many companies are going to be successful based on how quickly they can transition from being entirely human to being partially automated or even entirely automated. And so you'll see this with all of the concierge texting services. Mm-hmm. You'll see it even with Uber as we kind of move to self-driving cars. That's one of the big drivers, is the machines and computers actually being able to provide high-quality, fast, products and services. That's tremendously exciting. Conversational UXs are really interesting me right now. Mm-hmm. I think bots are the new apps. I think apps are kind of becoming less relevant, and bots are what's going to be really interesting. I think there's going to be a worldwide application rewrite around conversational user experiences. Pretty much everything is going to get rewritten so that you can talk to it, so that you can either text at it or even talk to it in speech. Mm-hmm. That's going to change everything. So there's 2 or 3 technological revolutions which are just starting now, which I am as excited about in 2015 as I was excited about apps and app stores in 2007. And I think we're going to get that next exponential growth, really quickly.
But what is the investable way into that? I mean, is there a bot company? Because it seems to be the value would distribute equally across the apps that use those connecting technologies, not quite one, because middleware was never a big deal. And APIs, no one has ever made $1 billion selling APIs.
Well, Stripe's doing pretty well.
Well, but that's for one purpose. I'm talking an API platform for other people.
Yeah, I mean, middleware has never been a big deal and never will be, because by definition, you call something middleware because it isn't a real thing. It doesn't fit in any category. Yeah. I've heard pitches from companies claiming to be middleware, and I'm like, oh, that is a terrible way to think about yourself.
On your way, off your way, yeah.
But I think API businesses are going to be really interesting, mm-hmm. and I think Stripe is a great example. I think there will be, it'll be, I think, parallel to what happened with apps, right? So who got the value from apps? Well, Apple got a lot of the value, and Google got a lot of the value, but there were hundreds of other big companies, including Evernote, that also were able to create billions of dollars of value because of apps. Mm-hmm. I think the conversational UXs are going to be the same thing. I think probably Amazon is going to get a lot of value out of it. Apple will, Google, maybe Microsoft. So there'll be the platforms that capture maybe 50% of the value will be captured by 3 or 4 of the platform providers. And actually, I think Amazon might be a very, very important platform provider in that space. But the other 50% is going to go to entirely new companies that spring up out of it, and and Evernote, hopefully.
Are you seeing them now? Is there a couple people that have come by General Catalyst that you've already said, you're the one? I'll give you some money.
So I've been on the job for a month. I haven't made any investments yet, but I'm definitely zeroing in on a couple of things.
Yeah.
And I'm very interested in talking to anyone that has good ideas for conversational user experiences, for bots, and I think I'm close to making some early investments.
Does the bot world have to be moderated by this? I presume it could be in your car.
Yeah.
It's not going to be on the fridge. People keep talking about the fridge. That's not going to happen, or the washing machine. But where else will bots show up?
It's totally going to be on your fridge. The day that you finally write it off, you're like, it's never going to be on my fridge. You're going to walk into your kitchen. It's going to be a bot on your fridge. I think the whole point of wearables is that individual devices are going to become a lot less important, and it's going to be more about the human experience. So, like the magic thing about the Amazon Echo, and the Amazon Echo is amazing,
I've got one. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
is it's like simultaneously stupid and amazingly smart. Is that you don't have to pay attention to it. You know, I can be washing my dishes and just talk to it, and it talks back. And even like playing like their dumb little games, like you can get like there's a game called Word Master that you can get for Alexa, and it's very, very rudimentary. But the interaction of just like doing something else, washing your dishes, and like playing a word game with this thing that's just like ambiently in your room is really magical, and it's cognitively so different than any other experience that I've ever had with a machine. So yeah, I actually think the individual devices will become less important, and you'll have this thing everywhere. So I should be able to talk to my room when I'm at home, when I'm pretending to be a robot, and then if I get into my car and drive, or hopefully it drives me, I should just be able to continue that conversation.
Okay. All right, last question. So it's a big one. So the whole consumer to enterprise, what advice do you have for people who have consumer apps that are trying, like a Dropbox? What would you tell Drew or?
I would not presume to give advice to Drew or to anyone else. I think if you want to know, just a quick thing, if you want to know what things are going to die, like what things are going to get disrupted and what things are worth fundamentally replacing, it's every single thing that feels like filling out a form will die in the next 5 years. So if you want to like, and most of your form filling happens at work in enterprises, probably 80%. Right. So if you want to go through your day and you just see like, when are you filling out forms, 100% guaranteed that those things will go away over the next few years. Right. And consumer companies, or really any companies, ought to be targeting those things. Like figure out how do people fill out forms and write solutions to completely get rid of them. Don't digitize those forms, just totally sidestep it. I think there's going to be tremendous value there.
Okay, thanks, Phil. You're going to be more valuable, I think, as a venture capitalist to the world than to the guy who brought green to the phone.
I assumed that was some kind of insult, but
no,
I'm going to take it as a compliment.
It's a compliment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Which way we go? This way.